Hi, welcome to Out of Our Shells. My name is Emily M. Cheung, and this podcast is about awesome women who do awesome things. And today I have Lindsay Warnock with me. Yay! Hey. We met singing, actually. Yeah, we were sang in this awesome girls group, basically, of like 1950s,
1940s. It was like Andrew Sisters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was a lot of fun. And so you are a musician. And actually you're leaving tonight, right?
I am leaving tonight.
And where are you going?
I'm going to Saskatoon for 2 months doing Elf, the musical. So the movie Elf, but they've made it into a full stage musical.
Fantastic. So. What role have you got
I'm playing Deb, who is the character played by Amy Sedaris in the movies.
Okay.
So the secretary of the boss, who's Buddy's dad.
Okay.
And so, so Persephone Theatre in Saskatoon.
Fun.
Really great theater company, so I've heard. I've never gone there before, but yeah.
That should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it should. I mean, Deb gets her own funny song. She's definitely like the comic relief to a very comedic show. Yeah. So
you've looked at it all and you've obviously read through it.
Yes, I have the script. I have all the music, and it seems so fun. She's hilarious, and I feel like Amy Sedaris did that role, and it was very funny. But I think the script is so open to my interpretation.
Perfect. So that's great.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
But you also have this other life that you moonlight.
I do.
Which is, I mean, I want to talk about the musical stuff as well, but we were in the car, and then all of a sudden you told me you were a what?
Yes, I am a connoisseur of lumberjack sports, or timber sports, or logger sports, which it's called all of those things, and so. Yeah, it's a weird side hustle that I have, and I have had for the past 6 years now, and it's a crazy counterculture that is so Canadian, and yet is all over the world.
Crazy. So how did you get into it to begin with?
I graduated from Cap University in North Vancouver, and I think I was maybe a month out of university when I get a phone call from this man who says, I run the Grouse Mountain Lumberjack Show, which is this 45-minute show that happens 3 times a day, 7 days a week, May to October, on top of Grouse Mountain, so like actually outside. And I get this email or this phone call from this person saying, I run this show. We got your name from your university.
Oh. Would
you like to have, I think it was even lunch, to discuss this job?
Okay.
And and so they apparently there's a directory at my university that this guy went through and just went, her.
This one
looks good. And so I thought it was a woman because his name was Jody.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely was an email because I saw Jody. I was like, great. Oh, that sounds fun. I'll meet him at Seymour's Pub on the North Shore.
Yeah. Oh, Seymour's.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Exactly.
Oh, memories. Okay.
And there was this, muscular bald man sitting there, and I went, oh. Hi.
Yeah.
And he was absolutely lovely. He's run the show for 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
And he explained the job, and I was fresh out of university. I was like, I need a job that has performing in it. Yes, thank you, I will.
Yeah.
And that was 6 years ago now.
Crazy.
And I started, that's how I spend my summers for years.
Yeah.
And so... yeah.
What does it entail exactly?
Basically, my job, I'm the MC of the show. So what I do is I explain the history of the events, a history of lumberjacking and timber sports and that kind of world to this audience that's outside, usually about 500 to 600 people every single show.
Wow.
Lots of tourists, lots of cruise ship tourists. And so I explain the events.
Yeah.
I set up the guys for their jokes. I keep them in line, and this is so the jokes don't go too crazy. And I keep score. I get the crowd going, and it's definitely that master of ceremonies role.
So what is the history of timber sports? Because I know nothing.
Basically, well, it focuses really a lot on the history of West Coast lumberjacks, which derives from, the start of the gold rush and how there was all these people here who needed to live and to create a life here, to live while they were panning for gold and doing the gold rush thing that they do.
Yeah.
And so they hired men, women to build towns, to build cities, and build what is now the Lower Mainland or BC in general. You can see it up in Barkerville. They still have the log homes there. They're the original ones.
There. It's really cute.
Yeah. And so, that is the history of it. And so, and then it dives into, you know, what made these guys take in between the jobs, you know, where, you know, if on a Friday night they wanted to drink, and so they thought, who can cut through this piece of log fastest, and so they'd have competitions, you know, on their days off, and they'd put money on it, and you know, they would throw the axes to name what tree they wanted to tear down next. That's how axe throwing started. And so, and then all of a sudden, you know, how people who are bored, they want to make a competition or a game out of everything. And that's what essentially happened. And that's a sport, and it still happens today.
Right. So is this primarily then West Coast? Like, I mean, I was asked once to come to a concert in my national outfit. Which is a little tricky. In Canada, because you definitely don't want to go as a First Nations person.
No.
But so I actually ended up going as a lumberjill. Like I donned, you know, the plaid and made myself a little plastic thing. And then everybody just totally went, yeah, of course, you know, Canada, definitely.
Canada.
How did it come about, do you think, this sort of idea that Canada is this place of lumberjacks?
Well, I think they look at it as who carved the city into what it is now. And it's still the lots of East Coast. There's tons of that on the East Coast. Same with there. And it was our first resource. Right? Yeah. And so, looking at that and looking at, the people who carved the country and who built it on the sweat of their backs. Yeah. Is plaid actually a thing? Like, where did it come from? It's more. It could be. I think I'm not even sure where the plaid itself comes from, but I know it's the wool is what's the important part of the plaid.
Gotcha.
You know, and so I should know more about plaid. I really should.
Plaid I think of more as like tartan. You know, like a more of a. Like
the Highland
thing.
Yeah. Right.
I wonder if it kind of came over from that direction. Quite possibly, I don't know.
Maybe. But definitely it was the wool.
The wool. Okay.
The wool of it. You needed to be warm.
To be warm, right.
Yeah.
So what kind of events does your thing hold?
For on Grouse Mountain, and that's just very much a small showcase of hundreds of events that do take place within timber sports. We start out with a springboard chop, which is demonstrates how the guys had to get higher up onto the trees, so they can cut it out where it was thinner. And so that is 3 planks that they make little pockets for, and they put the planks in, get on top, make another pocket, put the planks on, and then they chop the tree off where it's thinner. So because if it's really big in the bottom, that's very cumbersome to do.
Okay.
And then there's axe throw. There is crosscut saw, which is about a 6-foot tool steel saw that they cut through a log. They tree climb, which is where they put spurs on their feet and they climb up a tree. Log roll, classic favorite of the audience is the log roll.
And that's the one where you stand on a tree and like try to stay while it's in the water, right?
Yes. And and they have to try and get the other person off the log.
I see.
Very crucial element of that.
Gotcha.
And then there is, that's it for events. There's a little bit of chainsaw play or demonstration, I guess.
Right.
Lots of jokes, and there's an exploding well.
Oh, wow.
It's quite a high production value show, and I think it stemmed from the creator of the show went and saw Cirque du Soleil and said, and he was a very creative person who had this background as a lumberjack, and said, I can create a show that, you know, provides
entertainment value for it. But you mentioned that it's a worldwide event.
Yes, they market it as the world famous lumberjack show. And honestly, because most of the patrons of the show are tourists and cruise ship tourists. People from all over the world. How I even start the show is I go into the audience and I ask where people are from. And it feels like a worldwide show because there's usually not a lot of Vancouverites in the audience.
Right, it makes sense.
Yeah, and so I think they see in a season about 2 million people
Wow.
from the cruise ships, and when you get off the cruise ship, you get two options. You can go to grouse or you can go to the aquarium. And a lot of people, push grouse because it's that Canadian experience.
Of course, climbing up the mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a beautiful view from the top.
It is. It's really, really nice. And they've got tons of stuff. They've got birds. They got 2 bears, lots of stuff like that. And so people are fascinated by, especially coming to Canada, that's what they know of. They hear lumberjacks. They have that vision of a Canadian, that Canadiana. And I've gone traveling around the world. I remember being in Ireland and somebody had asked me where I was from and I said Vancouver. And they said, oh, I've been to Vancouver once. I saw a lumberjack show there. And I was like, yeah, you saw me doing the lumberjack show. And they were like, it was mind-blowing.
Yeah.
But that's happened a couple of times, abroad.
Wow. Crazy.
So that name of world famous kind of does hold true.
Right. Because if it's all tourists that are coming to your show, then they're going to take it back with them as their moment, right?
I think one lumberjack went over to a friend's house, or he was staying with somebody, and he went, and on their fireplace was, because we do photos at the end of the show.
Oh, okay.
There was a photo of that person with 2 different lumberjacks, not him, because that would have been crazy, but 2 different lumberjacks at the show.
Oh, wow.
He was like, I work there.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But timber sports as a general thing, is it do we only do it in Canada, or where else does it happen?
So timber sports is a moniker that is very much a competition. There's different levels. There's lumberjack shows are shows for families and kids. They're scripted, usually about 30 to 45 minutes long. And then you have logger sports, which are community-based events that are community and competitions that aren't televised, but there's a strong community-based logger sports and lumberjack sports. And then timber sports is kind of the moniker for steel timber sports, which is a televised event that is worldwide.
Oh, okay.
And so it started in 1985 on on a tractor with a camera attached to it in a field in the States. Okay. And it has grown since then into this worldwide event.
Oh, crazy.
So, and there's lots of countries, not all countries obviously, participate. It's more like the Olympics, where Australia they just had the World Championship, I think, last week.
Wow.
And so Australia are big contenders, New Zealand, there's an English team, France, the Netherlands, Poland. I'm trying to think, the States have a huge team. Canada are big contenders in that.
Okay.
And so
there are, I don't know, I just kind of figured lumberjack sports feels like it would be a primarily North American type thing.
I think so. Well, I thought so too. When I started in this, for sure, I thought that. But then I realized that a lot of countries had this similar upbringing, and
I mean, there's trees everywhere.
There's the timber, and the lumber industry is huge throughout the world.
Right.
Yes, but I think it was the Americans who started the big competition,
right, of course,
aspect of it, and who said, we can make money off of this. We should televise this and show it to the world. We want to be the best in the world, which is very much an American point of view. I can say that because I am an American citizen as well. I feel a bit of that as well. We want to be the best.
yeah, of course. So have you, once you started working at the summer program, did you do other kinds of events, like emceeing other places?
So yeah, basically my timeline went is that I was doing that for years, having a great time, going to these events and more cheering on my friends. And then I think I got noticed by another company who asked me to do their lumberjack shows that were touring. So I was going to the island. I was going to Alberta. I was going to the States and just kind of doing different lumberjack shows, which introduced me to more members of the logger sports community. And then I think it was 2 years ago, somebody had given my name to Steel Timber Sports, which is the actual event, big televised event that is that airs on TSN. And someone had given the producer and the director of that program my name. And so I got this phone call, and we're interested in having you as our host of the show. Whoa. Which was so crazy because I was, I think I was working on grouse, about to do a lumberjack show, something I'd done, after a month out of university. Something I thought that was fun to get me through the summers so I can do musicals at night. And that's how I did start my work there, is I'd do the work in the day and then I'd go and do a show at night, and that was just how it worked. Awesome. And so it was crazy getting this phone call from TSN Timber Sport, or like Steel Timber Sport, saying, we want you to be the face of this worldwide thing or for Steel Timber Sports Canada. And it kind of took off from there. They flew over here, they watched me do a show. I met with them, and then they were like, great, awesome, we will see you next year to be our host. And then 2 weeks later, they were like, just kidding, we need you now. Oh, shit. And we need you to host this year's, which starts in 3 weeks. Oh, wow. And which seems like a lot of time, but for these competitions, there are almost 30 athletes. There's 10 rookies, there's 10 women, and there's 10 to 20 pro men. Right. And so it's very much like the Olympics, where you are the host, but you're also the color commentator. You read the stats. Yeah. And so I lost my mind a little bit in theater school, you're kind of, raised to say, oh, yes, of course I can do that. Yes, I can ski, and we're doing a shoot on the mountain, you're just taught to say, to fake it till you make it. Right, of course. And so I did. I very much did. I was like, absolutely, I can do this. Yeah. I can do that. Meanwhile, I'm like hours and hours on my computer looking up stats, making notes, listening to other commentators and hear what they did and how they commentated, because up until that point, I had done strictly scripted things. I did a little bit of the color commentary during a lumberjack show, but it was just scripted. Right. And so I was very overwhelmed with the prospect of, you have to talk for 3 hours. Oh my gosh. Unscripted. Don't swear. Don't call, an axe a hitty thingy, you can't. You need to know. You need to look like you know what you're talking about. You have to know what you're talking about, because not only are the competitors, they're also they're my peers. A lot of them are friends. Yeah. They're peers of mine within the community. So didn't want to disappoint them, of course. Didn't want to disappoint, producers. There was a lot of pressure within that. Wow. But I worked my butt off to prepare for that. And it went really, really well. Wow. Yeah, I was overwhelmed, but I think maintaining that calm was so important. And I really do. I'm very grateful for a couple of the competitors who were friends of mine, who were just like, every couple of hours would come up to my desk and be like, you're doing good. You got this. You got this. You're doing well. You're doing okay. Because I think the first shoot that we did was 5 days in Wasaga Beach, Ontario. Okay. And it was so hot. It was literally the the stage and the auditorium thing was on the beach, like
Oh, wow.
on the sand.
Oh.
So it was hot, it was windy, it was sandy. There were so many elements. All my papers were flying everywhere. I was like, no, my stats. But yeah, it was, and so that was a couple of years ago, and then thankfully I did a good job. Then they asked me back and they were like, we love you, we want you to keep doing this. And
Great. So are you still doing it, or what's the...
I am still doing it. So yeah, usually there's two big competitions. There's a Canadian Championship and a Canadian Champions Trophy, which sound very similar,
Yeah.
but two very different events.
Oh,
One
okay.
is an individual event. The other one is like a relay event where one guy does all
of the things
all the
and the-
things at one go.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really intense to watch, but I think that might even be my favorite event to commentate because, or just I love commentating and just in general now. I've become addicted to it. It's
What's the difference between... I mean, I guess it is live. It's not scripted, right?
it's live.
What's the difference in skill set that you need being like an actress versus a commentator?
I think the biggest thing was for me, the more confident I am in my knowledge of what's going on, the better I feel, the more relaxed I am, the more I can just talk off the cuff.
Yeah.
I remember making little, at first, scripts for myself, and then going to a vocal coach and like trying to read the script for her, but off the cuff, like,
Yeah,
you know?
right, yeah.
And she's like, I don't feel like you're being really honest. I'm like, I'm not. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying words.
Yeah.
And so in the time from that first big, thrust into the position,
Yeah.
2 weeks, having that year to kind of really delve into the world and look more at the competitors' backstories as well, and finding the stories within the athletes. I helped so much because that's so much that you can talk about. You can talk about how this competitor's grandfathers did it before him and his father before him, and it's been a tradition passed on to him. And last year he came in second, and this year his dad's in the audience, and you want him, you get chills when you hear those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And that's what hooks people in and watches and gets them supporting someone.
Right, of course.
So having that that knowledge and that work gone before the event makes everything more relaxed, and having, and I realize it's very much the same as doing prep for a role, in which, because you want to do the backstory for your character, you want to do all the prep and the memorization of the script, but also the intention behind it. And so doing that back work, but when it comes to like statistics and information, it's very similar.
Yeah. Has it helped you with your acting career at all?
Has it yeah.
Either skills or I mean, if this, did somebody look at you on TV and go, wow? Well, I mean, I guess they don't really cross over too much.
Well, that's the thing. I think it realized it has, in a sense, because as soon as I did it, because I have an agent for film and television as well.
Right.
And as soon as I did it, my agents were like, can we put sportscaster on your resume?
Oh.
And I was like, absolutely you can.
Yeah.
And the amount of times those roles come up in film, in television, are huge. So I guess in a way they can cross over.
Yeah.
Because I'm seen constantly for reporter roles, for news anchor, for a reporter, and having that and getting a script and being like, okay, how to, like, you have to imagine that you got this information or you're reading it off of a teleprompter, which I wish I had. That would be so cool in Timber Sports to have a teleprompter. And so having that ease into, like, those roles in film really help, and it has shown in work. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great. So when is the next big event? Like you said, it happens like once or twice a year?
Yeah, once or twice a week. Twice a year in two different, usually in the summer months, because it's really dangerous to do timber sports in the rain, even though,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And so even though the past couple of years, I think we've been plagued. We were in Sydney, Nova Scotia this year, and we were plagued with rain. It was so miserable. But we still, like, managed to get some footage together and make the competition happen. So next year, it's in Red Deer, Alberta, and Prince Edward Island.
Oh, that's
Charlottetown.
Nice. Oh, cute. Have you been there before?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
When I was there, though, it was in the dead of winter, and they had freezing rain, but it was so beautiful because all the trees were just encased in ice, and the sun would shine through it because it's actually quite sunny. The sun would shine through and be like these little like icicle, like the whole tree would just like jingle with, with the ice. It's so pretty. I mean, you won't get that because it'll be summer.
It will be, but it's like the home of Anna Green Gables.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be super in my element there. And what's fun is that when we, as my job, when we first get there, I get 2 days of tourism filming. So B-roll for tourism. Because a lot of, because we do the events in sort of small Canadian towns.
Oh, okay.
And so we use that as not like advertisement, but like look at these small towns, look at Canada, like look at how amazing all these different aspects of Canada. And so I get to have like 2 days of, going around for example, like this year was in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia.
Great.
So like going around 2 days, going around the city or like going around the island, filming these little spots, being like, look we're at the Fortress of Louisbourg, or we're at the big trail. Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
The Cabot Trail,
Oh, okay.
which is this beautiful forest. And so having that experience too. So doing that in Prince Edward Island
Would be
is going to
great.
be...
So have you gone basically across Canada with it so far? I mean, it's been 2 years for you now, so I guess,
Yeah.
Canada has a lot to offer as far as...
It does.
I've been really, really lucky that my professional choir, generally speaking, will have a tour of a portion of Canada every year. So it'll either be kind of British Columbia and Alberta, or it'll be sort of the prairies and maybe Ontario, or it'll be the Maritimes. And this past year we did a full cross-country tour all the way to St. John's. I'd never been to St. John's before. Oh my goodness, I am so going back.
Yeah, that's the thing. I need to go back and actually not be working and enjoy these beautiful cities.
Are you able to take any time afterwards just to look at the cities, or is it
constricting? Usually because they book flights so in advance, and they book the flights, and I haven't yet been like, can I stay behind a couple of days? But I think when it comes to PEI, I think I will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Newfoundland was just, it was so, like, just the ruggedness of it. You really feel like it's still wild.
Yeah.
But in a completely different way to Vancouver, like, not forests wild, but, like, crazy huge waves, and just on this incredible shoreline. So good. So have you tried any of those sports yourself?
I have, being up there, so being on Grouse Mountain, you're there, you do 3 shows a day for 45-minute shows, one at 11:15, one at 2 o'clock, and one at 4:30.
Right.
So there's big gaps in your day.
Between, yeah, of course.
And I've been there for 6 years, and, boredom happens, I think, similarly to how it happened back in the early 1800s.
Right.
You might as well just try it.
Yeah,
So, and the guys are so pushy about making me try it.
Oh, okay.
Especially when they found out that I was going to commentate it. They're like, you should do it to see how it feels, to see how exhausting.
Yeah.
After, like, when they do the underhand chop, they're standing on a block of wood and they cut through halfway, and then they turn and do the other side They cut halfway through the block.
Uh-huh.
They turn around and go through the other half and then finish it.
Okay. I'm sorry, not picturing that. So they're standing on a log of wood on the end of the, like the round end of the...
No, on the long end.
Long, okay, so they're on a moving surface.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but it's like secured.
Oh, it is, okay.
So they have to go through halfway, and then they turn around and finish from the other.
So make like a V?
Yes,
oh,
V
okay.
and then a V.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so they thought like it's very important that you do this, so you know just how hard your lungs are working
right
after finishing that first side.
Yeah.
And now you got to turn around
and do the other side.
And so, and they were very adamant on being like, you should do it so that you can tell the audience at home, maybe people who haven't seen it before, just how much it burns and where like your forearms, like, and everything, what is like what you're using to do this event.
Right, yeah.
And so, yes, I have chopped wood. I have attempted to climb the trees, which is also way harder to do than what it looks like.
When I've seen it, I feel like I've seen it on TV, and they just go all the way up the top.
Yep.
But it's not. I'm sure it's not.
It's no, and that's the thing. And like I think I had taken for granted for so many years, you know, us doing these shows 3 times a day, then watching and then attempting it and being like, how are you doing this? You know, but I do really like axe throw. They bought me my first throwing axe, like big, like throwing axe.
Wow. Is it different than a normal axe?
It's double bladed, double edged.
Okay.
And they like bought me this beautiful one from New Zealand and then had the handle made. It's very special. I call it Axel Rose.
Lovely.
It's my favorite thing. And so, but that's something you can do anytime. I put a target up at my parents' house in Langley in their backyard. Neighbors love it.
Yeah.
And so I love axe throw and I love log rolling because I feel like there's not as much danger of me hurting myself.
Well, you could fall off.
Hit
yourself in the face.
I definitely find a way to hurt myself when it comes to logger sports. But there's other events that I've been coerced into trying because a lot of it is doable, but it's just me being like, oh, I'm scared.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I was never super athletic as a kid. I didn't do sports. I went to a fine arts high school. Like we had a great badminton team and that's about it. And so but if you're up there and you're with these people, they make you feel super comfortable and they encourage you to try it. And I've competed like once in axe throwing and like at a competition. And I was like, oh, this is really great. And I've seen at a lot of local competitions, a lot of people being thrown into just a competition. They're like, we need somebody else to do this crosscut saw. We need a Jack and Jill. We need a Jill. Like, can you step in? I've never done this before. Like, I witnessed that a lot.
Right.
And then, but everyone just like teaches you right there in the moment and says like, go. And it's this great, I have friendly community that just want like very uplifting. And so I'll ask myself a question. Should I compete more? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would. I definitely would. But I just have to put myself. I would.
Oh dear. But you said that there's like 10 pro men and then 10 pro women, and then rookies.
Yes.
Is the rookies mixed or is it?
I don't think we've ever had any. No, they're not mixed. They're men. Because women.
What happens to the rookie women?
The rookie women just go right into the women's division because there's not as many women going out for it.
Has women always been a part of the competition?
They haven't, but I think they started the women's league only 5 years ago. I want to say 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 7.
And how long is the event been running?
Since 1985.
Oh, right, 85. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could be wrong. I know for Canada, it's been only 5 or 6, 7 years. One of those. I'm not sure about the States. But yeah, those women are incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how do you get, I mean, is it something that you just, how would you start in that?
A lot of like when you see rookies, a lot of them get into it through collegiate. Through their colleges.
Oh, okay.
And so UNB has a massive, which is the University of New Brunswick, has a massive woodsman team. And UBC has the Thunderjacks, which are a woodsman team for...
I had no idea.
Yeah, and in the States, there's a lot, especially, well, it depends on what university you do go to. Like, Wisconsin has a big woodsman team there. I'm trying to think of Oregon, Washington, a lot of... woodsman team, a lot of through college if they don't grow into it through family.
Through family, yeah.
But there's big godfather family names in timber sports.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
And so you like pick it up from your father who got it up from their father and then
for
mother
sure.
or however it's it.
Yes, there's an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old right now that come from big lumberjack families that I see at like local competitions and I go, "Oh, you're going to kick everyone's butts in like 10 years."
So what is the age range actually of the people who are competing?
I've seen a 4-year-old to like 65, 70.
Really?
There is no gap. There's no like age limit. And it's especially for older people in the sport, like a lot of it, like if you can run a chainsaw, you can compete.
Right.
You know, if you can still chop wood, albeit like fast or slow, as long as it's consistent and not disqualified, you can still compete.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, do people continue? Like,
oh yeah.
Do they? I guess. I mean, it's just a matter of the more that you do it, probably the better that you get, right?
Exactly.
So it's whether your muscles can continue.
Yeah, and a lot of it is muscle memory. It's if you're still physically fit at 65, you can go in there and compete.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
That's good. But 4 years old, and then it wouldn't be competing.
Okay, so 4 years old, they get started with things like making firewood. There's like a firewood event. They do a nail drive.
Okay.
They do an event called the choker race, which is this long choker. How do I explain it? It's like a kind of, for kids, it'll be like a 10-pound wire.
Oh, okay.
That they have to like wrap around a log, and then they just make games out of actual lumber work.
That's cute. That's cute. So, but is there like an age when you can physically, like, can you start, or is it just skill level?
It's a skill level.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched an 11-year-old compete against a 30-year-old this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, like, mind you, it was his first, like, he can do it, and he did it. It was much slower than the, 30-year-old who's, like, just goes through it. But he still, like, did it, and there's that big drive to do it, especially because he's one of the ones that, like, his dad did it, his grandpa did it, his uncle does it, his brother does it. Like, there's a big drive to kind of get into it.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And the ones that you said there was like a French team and a Dutch team, and that's a different competition then?
That's the steel timber sports.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's that big, the big televised event.
Right, but which you're not doing those ones. You're doing.
I don't do the world. I want them to take me to the world. If you're listening now, Jerry, please put me on the international team. I would love that. Yeah. So this year, where were they this year? They're in Prague. They're in Prague right now. So every year, it's in a different country, in a different city. I think last year was in Lillehammer, and the year before was in France, and so it's like the Olympics of timber sports. Yeah.
So, I mean, you'd ideally like to do that?
I would love to do that, but, or at least be like the Canadian commentator. Yeah. Like, the problem is
have
that,
some pull, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, the worlds are kind of their own thing. Like, I represent Canada, but the worlds are, like, they're big. They probably have their own, like, lead commentator who's done it for 20 years. But I would love to provide the Canadian perspective. Jerry, please.
Well, I mean, that sounds like a lot. So how has this mixed with your musical life?
It's been interesting. It's been an interesting ride to do them both and to commit to both, the Steel Timber Sports makes their events a year in advance.
Right.
So they're like, you have to commit to that a year in advance. And like the acting industry is very much a year in advance as well.
Yeah.
And so it's a process of auditioning for things and being aware that like this could perhaps conflict with timber sports, and is that worth it to you? Is that like picking and choosing? I've been very, very lucky so far to not have any scheduling major scheduling conflicts. And it's just a process of making sure that those weeks are unavailable to my agents, to film and to television, which is hard because they want me to do, lots of film.
How many weeks would it take up?
It takes up only 4 weeks.
4 weeks, okay.
Which is a good,
but that's still a good chunk. Yeah,
it's a good chunk of time, and it's like right smack usually in July and August.
Oh.
And so that's big summer stock. That's a lot of rep theater on the East Coast. A lot of like big musicals usually start, or big shows usually start like May to October. Very similar to, So it's making sure that, thankfully so far, those conflicts haven't come up. But when they do, it will be more of a like, what direction am I more inclined to do? Like, it'll be very much looking at, the pros and cons.
Pros and cons of finances and things that I'm sure also makes a difference. Yeah. Now scheduling. I just got asked today whether I wanted to be flown, all things paid, to Hanover to record a CD with a bunch of my best friends.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. It's a week, and it's like the last week of my rehearsals before a show that I'm a big like 2 week long production I'm doing, and I can't do it. And I'm like, I want a free trip to
of
to
course.
sing with my friends, like as a part of the World Peace Choir. Like, come on.
My gosh.
Well, anyway. But that's what you do, right?
And it is important, but you also, like, I'm a big stickler for, if I've made a commitment, I've made a commitment.
Yeah, true.
And I don't like backing out of things. It's not something I like to do, and I don't think I have done so far. I'm pretty sure, and that's why making those decisions, to say yes are big ones.
They're big ones.
You have to really put stock into it.
Definitely. Have you had any like mentors help you with this whole, because I mean it's quite a different world than the acting world?
Yes, absolutely. I have big mentors, or are a lot of the competitors themselves have been huge huge support systems for me. Right. And I have like a lot of like recorded conversations with them on my phone about their perspective of it and what they like as commentators as well. And because they hear everything I say.
Oh, really? Oh, that changes things.
It's
entirely.
This job is threefold. It's me, doing the back work and the tourism part.
Yeah.
It's me doing the color commentating in between. Yeah. And it's me also commentating the live show to a live audience.
Right.
And so my voice is on the speakers that go to the live event as well.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of power.
There's a lot. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Oh man.
It's a lot of power, and like, of course, because I care so much about the athletes themselves, like a lot of them are very close to me, and even the ones that aren't, like, we're still in the same community.
Yeah, of course.
And so hearing, maybe don't say like, he really messed that one up. And because because usually if you're recording, after the fact, which a lot of color commentators do, is that they watch and then they record.
Wait, sorry, what exactly color comment? What is the...
It's he really messed that up, right? Like that kind of like.
Okay, so it's just off the cuff kind of.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So these things are recorded afterwards usually.
Usually, yes.
Right.
Yeah. Usually there's a live announcer, and then afterwards they go into a studio and then record, so they can get a few tries at it. But I have to do it all live.
Oh wow.
which is, very, so you really want to make sure you say the right thing the first time.
That's a skill. That's a major skill. Like, does everything process in your brain before it comes out of your mouth? I mean, I guess you've done it enough now that it's...
I definitely, I have sometimes like go-to phrases, which I'm trying to not have, because those can become repetitive, and that is a note I've given to myself a lot.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit about really lightning fast thinking about what you're going to say and then saying it, because you have to say usually the name of the place that they're from,
right?
Which if you're from the East Coast, it's really hard to say. Last names are hard as well. And then, and making sure that what you say is, delicate yet truthful, because... like, if he did really mess it up, you kind of have to say it. Like, unfortunately.
Right, it's like, oh, dear.
And it's that same...
What is a phrase that you would use, for example, if somebody really, just completely missed that, whatever it was they were doing?
I would say, because they... 9 times out of 10, they know they messed up. And so I'll usually say something about, so-and-so's really going to be disappointed with the result of that event. It's like you can feel the disappointment off of so and so, because it puts it on them and not on me being like, I really think you did this, because it's got to be almost nonpartisan and very, very, very...
I feel like I've heard that before. Oh, they're going to be disappointed.
They're going to be disappointed with those results, and it's...
that's totally a catchphrase.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and because it... or we really expected better of, it was like, I thought we were going to see, it started off really, really smart, and then he just lost control at the end. A lot of really key words, but because they can hear it too.
Right, of course.
And that's, I think the biggest one is that I did someone wrong in that, and it was at the award ceremony. And it was this one, and he'll never let me live it down.
Was he a friend of yours?
Yes, and it was, he had done so well, but then choked on the last event. And I think I said something as he was walking up to the stage to not go on the podium.
Oh.
And I said something along the lines of, he did so good, but just not good enough. Something awful like that. And I, in the moment, not even listening. And then afterwards he was like, ouch. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I mean, it's true, but also I'm so sorry. And so, but it's also, you can help, especially doing the live show, you can help the athletes be like, this person's catching up on you.
Yeah.
You have to pick up the pace,
Oh,
and
I guess so. I mean, because they're probably really concentrating on what they're doing, and they're not really aware of what it all happens at the same time.
Yeah, and and most of the time, most people can tune it out, but some, I've talked to a lot of the competitors about, do you listen to me? And some of them do and are acutely aware of what I'm saying and use me as a tool.
Right.
So
that's also smart.
Yeah, it's smart, but also so making sure I'm saying what's actually happening is very important.
It's very important. Have you found that this has helped you just in your speaking skills in general?
I think so. I mean, I definitely, since doing this work, I have been getting a lot of calls from local competitions that, saw my work on TV, and they're like, we really like what you do. Can you perhaps, do emceeing for us? And I also it's given me the confidence to be like, I can actually do a wide variety of MC work if you would like. And so putting that, because there's tons of work in that field of emceeing corporate events, award shows. There's lots of stuff like that. And I realized also that I quite liked it, especially the film aspect, the sport aspect, and it's given me new goals, perhaps.
Cool.
Kind of looking at broadcast journalism and broadcast journalism, or even sport, like more sportscasting.
Yeah, well, you've already been on, TV doing the sportscasting. Like, the skills are all transferable, right? It's just a different sport.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so kind of looking at that and looking at, I feel like I have this weird new avenue in my life that I had no idea, combined, live, film, and sports, which I do love. But that combination of live and film that I didn't realize was an option for me.
Cool.
And if, 6 years ago doing the Lumberjack show on Grouse Mountain, I would have laughed in your face if you said, you're going to be the host of a televised professional timber sports event. I would have laughed in your face. Like, it wasn't even, mostly because it wasn't like, I've always done my passion. I've always done arts and musicals and singing and acting. Yeah. I've always done my passion, and it wasn't something I was particularly passionate about, but it was something I grew passion about, and that's something that I didn't know existed, that you can find new passions.
Yeah.
Which, that was...
No, I know exactly how that is. The same thing with me. I've always been like artistic, all those singing. Like, singing has always been number one, but my passion for threading eyebrows, incredible.
There you go.
Who would have thought, right?
I'll give you a call.
It's like this thing, like you don't realize, you start doing a thing, because it just happened to be an opportunity that came around, and then all of a sudden you were like, ooh, I actually really like this thing. That's why I like encouraging people to try new things, because you never know. Even though it may not be like an original passion of yours,
no,
you might find something that you never thought that would be really good for you, and then all of a sudden you're like, this is exactly like, it ticks this box and this box and this box and this box, and you just never have any idea.
Exactly. And I think piggybacking onto that is this concept of saying yes to it. Part of me, when I was originally asked to do the TSN stuff, I did feel this resistance of, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm good enough to do this.
Right.
And thank God I just said yes.
Well, yes, let's.
Well, yes, it's all about that yes, because like I had no idea that this was a passion of mine, that I was going to get a passion out of this. And being open to these options that weren't a part of your original plan. And because up until, even 6 years ago when I started doing lumberjack shows, I was like, okay, I'm done school. Now I'm going to go away and do more school and, go and audition and just be an artist and that kind of thing. And, and saying yes to, this work that has led me to saying yes to saying yes to this has built a new passion. I think that's a huge lesson for me to learn, to say yes to things that maybe you weren't a part of your original plan.
I mean, it's nice to have a plan, but at the same time,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm honestly not a planner. I've never planned anything. It's just I've been fortunate that I had a joy. Singing brought me joy. And I just kind of did a step and did a step and did a step, and things just kind of randomly came into my life. And I said, oh, this is an interesting thing. Let's try this interesting thing. And this interesting thing led to another interesting thing. And
totally.
And where I am now, I never thought with my classical career that I would be singing Pink Floyd on top of a giant tricycle for a light show, downtown. And, just these random things come into your life, but you're like, yes, that was great. That was so much fun.
Exactly. and so many of those jobs and those opportunities give you the confidence to say yes to the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool about this kind of work and this creative kind of work, or at least that's what I love about it.
If you were to give advice to somebody who wanted to start in broadcasting, for example, for sports, what would you say?
I think for me at least, or advice if you want to get into that, pick the sport and know everything about it, and really delve into why you love it and why other people love it. And I think that's that was for me the key. That's where my passion in it came from. And I think that's where I went from like, I'm okay at it to being like, I'm actually pretty okay at it. You know,
great.
I am still.
I'm gonna go home and watch Lindsay Warnock at TSN. I'm excited.
But it's true. You know, it's like, I think if that's your passion, then like do the work.
Yeah.
And and don't let anyone say that you can't or that you're not prepared enough, or that. Do the work and show it. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest advice I could get or give or get myself, was to just do the work, and it shows, and it makes you feel better too. That was that was the biggest thing. Like the first time I did it, I think I had like my shoulders up to here for like weeks after, because I was just like like that. But then I was getting texts from people at home watching.
Yeah.
And
Lindsay, relax your
and
shoulders.
just like relax. And then the next time they're like, you are getting into your groove. And that is so important when it's a live, high stakes, high energy event, is to find that fluidity and find that calm. And that comes from being really prepared.
Really prepared, absolutely. I've had so many questions like, are you ever nervous when you go to sing? It's all about preparation. If I know that I'm prepared, no, I'm not. I mean, maybe like 2 minutes before I start singing a solo or whatever, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're not nervous, then you're silly, because shit can always go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
I had this performance, this really, really important performance, and I literally flipped pages too far and was on a completely different song than I was supposed to be at. I looked down at my music and went, uh-oh. But it's that level of professionalism that where you just sing something and you flip it and you're madly trying to find it, then you find your place and you're like, look around, okay, here I am. You know, missed a few bars, but there I am. You know, it's the level of preparedness that allows you to do that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared, then you just fall apart.
You would. Yeah,
exactly. Lindsay, this has been fantastic.
Yay.
Thank you so much for telling me about timber sports. I had no idea.
Yes.
And also for sharing your insights on passions and how they can grow. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's been very lovely. So have a fantastic time in Saskatoon, right?
Saskatoon.
Oh,
it's going to be so
bring
cold.
all the warm clothes.
Oh my gosh.
Get out
so
into
many.
You know, at -20, it's when your nose hairs start freezing, right?
Oh, yeah.
So just enjoy that. It's such a novel sensation.
Is it? Is it novel?
It is. It really is. Like you breathe in and then all of a sudden everything becomes crispy. Oh man, so cool. I laugh every time it happens whenever I'm in the prairies. So have a fantastic trip and best of luck on your show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure.